right, it's the round 2 round table as we get into the second series of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League playoffs. I'm Dave Anthony, joined with the voice of the Nighthawks, Kevin Pauls, Cody Bueller of the Portage Terriers, and the Dauphin Kings, Darnell Duff. All right, boys, Winkler versus the Northern Manitoba Blizzard. Kevin Pauls, we'll start with you because you watched this series up close. Winkler had to learn some hard lessons about how to get through a tough opponent because the Nighthawks gave them all they could handle. Your kind of thoughts of that series and how the Flyers were able to come out of it.
They're surprised. Everybody goes in. These coaches, they're too good. They educate their players. The players have seen, have had chances to have good looks at these oppositions throughout the course of the year. But the Flyers go in after sweeping the season series 5-0, lopsidedly so. So what the Nighthawks did was they came in kind of, it's a fresh start. They were tenacious. They're exactly what Tyler Anderson told me off the beginning of this series, was that they were going to come in, work hard, be tenacious, and play solid hockey as best they could. They got great goaltending from Austin Dubinsky. You talk about how he battled all series long through the 6 games they had. He definitely stood out. If you want to call that a coming out party, go right ahead, because I'm not surprised. He's a fantastic young man and a great skilled goaltender. So they did whatever they could against the Flyers, a heavy team, a well defensive team. They started to get scoring from Andrew Morton, who scored 3 in the last 2 games, the eventual game winner in that series. Brody Boscheman was exactly what we expected as a leader from that group. I thought Isaiah Peters, Matheson, a lot of their defensive core got stronger as that series went on too, and they're a big team. So in a war of attrition, the size ends up, trumping a lot of maybe speed and skill in some cases. And the Nighthawks did everything they could, but about the second period of that game 6, the Flyers started playing real Flyers hockey, and after a long series, that starts to be too much. So hats off to the Flyers and what they did, and they look really good going into this next series against Northern Manitoba.
Cody Bueller, you've been around a long time. You've been, the favorites in playoff series. You've been the underdog in playoff series. So from the outside looking in, what is getting through that Nighthawks club do for the mentality of the Flyers? Because that wasn't an easy series, and to find a way to battle through it might be one of those things where they look back and go, "That's the reason we got as far as we did down the road, because we were pushed so far early." Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's one thing when you're the favorite. To get pushed a little bit in the first round, I think, is a good thing. You've faced some of that adversity to kind of get your feet wet and get into the playoff mentality, knowing that, okay, this isn't going to be easy, even though we are the favorite going into every series in the playoffs. These teams are still good and still are coming to play. And so I think it was good for the Winkler Flyers to face some of that in the first round. And they can also take solace knowing that they're not really at full strength right now. They're missing one of their top defensemen in Jensen, one of their top forwards in Goodmanson. And so they can say, hey, we're not even at the best we can possibly be. And so heading into this next round, we'll see. And it's kind of interesting as well, the way they play so physical in that smaller building in Northern Manitoba might be tough on the Blizzard, knowing that the Flyers are going to be banging bodies at every possible step.
Darnell Duff, that series for the Blizzard and the Titans, it wasn't for the meek. It was a tough series, and the Blizzard had to find different ways to win, and that's how you got to do things in the playoffs. So for a group that got to the second round, Game 7 last year, we know what they did in the first round last year, battle tested, to go through another tough series against the Titans, knowing they're going to be the underdogs against the Flyers. What does that do for them, and how does them kind of battling through round 1 help them going into round 2?
Yeah, I don't think you want things to be necessarily easy. Of course, you want things to be easy. You want to go through the playoffs. You want to win all 4 games in every series, but that's not going to be the case. It's just like Cody said, you want to face that adversary. You want adversity. You want to battle back. And what impressed me so much from the Northern Manitoba Blizzard was their stick to it and their ability to come back. They were down 4-2 in a game. They were down 2-1 in another game. They found way in both of those contests to ultimately come back, and then they closed out their series on home ice at the Roy H. Johnston. And when you want to talk about home ice advantage, this is a small facility, but I can tell you from experiences, my ears are still ringing from last year. It is loud. They have the horns. It is passionate. Sorry, my lights apparently just decided to turn off. But no, this Northern Manitoba Blizzard team, they've been building a foundation ever since last year when Eric Labrosse came in as the head coach and general manager. Tate Timmerman was bad in game number 3, gave up 4 goals. Then he gave up 4 in the next 2 games and was very good. This is a Blizzard team that are on you 100% of the time. They hit, they're physical, and they also have some pretty darn good talent. This is a good Norman team. And yes, they're going to be the underdogs against Winkler, but I don't think they're getting as much credit as they deserve.
Well, it's going to be interesting. And again, we'll get to more on that with Cody in just a second as we get the bright smile of Darnell lighting the room back up. Kevin Pauls, I think one of the topics from the outside of that series between Winkler and Niverville was the play of Liam Ernst. And he didn't get that game number 6. He gave way to Leif Ekblad, who's had a fantastic season and got the win, his first MJHL playoff win. But do you view that as a bit of a mental reset for Ernst? And if there is a little trouble in this series, can you see Ekblad coming in to give him a bit of a spell? And they don't lose a step with him, but just your thoughts on the Winkler goaltending situation.
Going on here are the questions I'm actually getting from a lot of Winkler folks. I work here and live near here, so it's obviously a coffee table discussion. You know, Liam Ernst with a 3.23 goals against and an 853 save percentage in that first series doesn't scream a lot of positive things to you, but this was the top goaltender in the league throughout the course of the regular season. You can say that that was mostly a byproduct of having a really good defensive core in front, but Liam Ernst is a good goaltender. I think a lot of the credit goes to the Nighthawks, how they moved that puck laterally. You know, they scored when they could. They scored off the rush in some cases. Like, you know, Holden Getzlaff is scoring a couple of goals. You know that that's being spread around. So credit to the Nighthawks for finding a way. Leif Ekblad, on the other hand, found a way to come in and get a win here in Winkler in Game 5, and then go down to Niverville and eke out a 3-2 victory there. I think he came out of it with a 1.23 goals against. He made some key saves. Winkler outshot the Nighthawks in the final 2 games of the series, but ultimately, yeah, they're going to have to find a way. But these players are here for a reason. They're good goalies. They're tough mentally. That's what they work through here, and they have good coaching too. So I have no doubt they'll figure things out.
Cody, did the Nighthawks provide a roadmap to other teams on how to beat the Winkler Flyers? And is that something that the Flyers need to be concerned with going in against another hardworking team in the Blizzard?
Well, I think that's definitely a possibility, and kind of like Kevin was talking about just moments ago. I think that the Blizzard, if they can get that puck in behind the Winkler Flyers defense, and again, without Jensen right now on the back end, it definitely does hurt Winkler. And so there is opportunity there to score some goals, and we'll see. In that small building in the pod, they know how to play there. They've got the fan support. And plus, like they said before, the travel. This is probably the farthest a team will travel in the playoffs. It's about as far as you can possibly get in the MJHL between Winkler and the PAW. And so with staying in hotels and eating on the road, both teams have to do it. And so it's definitely for both teams. And we'll see how this goes in the playoffs. And both have smaller capacity for fans, just kind of with the Winkler arena getting renovated and the PAW not having a ton of space. It's going to be interesting to see how this series shakes out.
I wonder if teams are going to go up a day before so they don't have to travel and play that night. That's something, but then you go into the cost of it all. So that weighs into things. And there's a lot of Winnipeg players on the Blizzard, so they love to travel. I know that, and Darnell, you know too, that the Blizzard fans love going to the road and watching them play. So Icon Arena is going to have a few Blizzard fans, and just like they had a few Nighthawks fans, but again, limited capacity makes things a little more interesting. Darnell Duff, maybe one of the concerns for the Blizzard, and they kind of shuck it off a little bit in that series versus Nipoa, but consistency. And you cannot take a period off. You cannot take a game off against the Winkler Flyers. They'll make you pay. So have the Blizzard shown enough in that series to show that they are consistent, they've matured, and they're ready to bring it each and every shift like they're going to need to do.
I think they played one of their better games in Game 5 on home ice. And from what I saw the Blizzard 6 times throughout the course of the season, of course, all against the Kings. And they're a team that maybe they haven't been overly consistent at all times, and maybe they themselves believe they underperformed in the regular season. Sure, we can call it that. but I think this is a club that has a very good game plan. I think Eric Lacrosse has done a fantastic job, as I alluded to just moments ago. They got better as that series against Nipawa went on, and that bodes well for them because they understand they're the underdogs as well, but they got guys who have been through this grind, and that is very valuable. I mean, the same thing you could say about the Winkler Flyers. They also have guys who have been through this battle of going through a Turnbull Cup and winning the championship as they did last year. So I think for the Northern Manitoba Blizzard, I don't think you have to worry about consistency. I think you just have to worry about finding a way to beat the best team in the MJHL. And I think if a team can beat Winkler, Northern Manitoba has the guys that could get the job done.
Yeah, we'll get more on that coming up in our X Factors here in just a bit. We've also got series predictions coming up. But first, Kevin Pauls, a random thought that you have of either the Flyers heading into this series or just something in general that's on your mind.
Earlier, in regards to that matchup with the Nighthawks in the first series, and I don't think we really saw the Winkler Flyers playing Winkler Flyer hockey as of yet. And the same thing happened last year against the Verdant Oil Capitals. It took them a couple, 3 games to sort things out, and then they locked things down. They were really tough mentally. They had a chip on their shoulder, and they walked like they were 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I think coming out of this series against the Nighthawks, they had to readjust and realign themselves. And we haven't even heard from some of their top players yet. So I think this is going to be a good series for the Winkler Flyers to really step up and put their game really to the test.
Yeah, I think that that game one's really important for the Blizzard to throw a little seed of doubt in there because if Winkler does come out have a really strong performance, they get game 2 the next night, and then they, like you said, they might be off and running. Cody Bueller, a random thought you have between the Flyers and the Blizzard in round 2?
I think it's going to be a really good series, and I think that there is a chance, like we've kind of been saying so far, that there is a potential for upset in this series. And the biggest thing is the travel. Our team's going to spend the night over. Who's going to travel the best? How's that going to be a factor? Our team's going to start slower. What's that going to be like? And so that's something that I think could be a bit of an X factor in this series.
Yeah, the Blizzard do the most traveling. I mean, they're probably the most used to it, but Winkler's got some veterans, of course, that have done it in the MJ for years already, so they're well aware of that. And Matt Mello, Colton Bates will have them ready to go if they need to go up the night before. They will. Darnell Duff, a random thought that you have heading into round 2, Flyers Blizzard.
I think when you talk about the home ice advantage, this is going to be incredibly interesting with that format going 2-2 and then 1-1-1. I think it's imperative. And of course, this is probably goes without saying. The Blizzard have to find a way, in my opinion, to win game number 1. And then they have to play almost flawless hockey on home ice because you're going to have to beat Winkler twice on the road. That's what's going to happen. But if you can find a way to play flawless hockey on home ice and pick up that game 1 win, you never know. You could be in a position where you're up 3-1 heading back to game 5 in Winkler. I think Northern Manitoba does have the capability to win this series, but it's all going to come down to setting the tempo in game number 1 and then defending their home ice.
All right, before we get series predictions, X factors for round 2, Winkler, Northern Manitoba. Kevin Pauls, who's got your attention?
7 points in round 1 as a rookie is nothing shy of impressive. That is absolutely wonderful to see. I love seeing the young players step up, when called upon in a playoff scenario too, is just awesome. On the other hand, for the Winkler Flyers, Jace Leegarden, he could see his impact during the course of games. Some of that doesn't show up on the game sheet, but in this case, you have your leaders like Brody Beauchemin, Nicholas McKee. They scored timely goals, impactful goals for the Winkler Flyers. But Jace Leegarden is a leader on that team. Great skater. He can shoot the puck. I expect to see him really start to shine here in this second round.
Yeah, like you said, Tyler Dom's having a real breakout for the Blizzard. Really incredible stuff. Cody Bueller, your X factors in this series.
I think the X factor for me for the Winkler Flyers is Liam Ernst. He was their go-to guy all season, and then to switch it up a little bit in the playoffs, a little bit surprising. And so obviously he's had time now to reset and get ready for the second round. But I think that's going to be a bit of a factor in this series, and we'll see if he can get back to where he was during the regular season. And then for the Blizzard, I'm looking at Quincy Cyprien. Here's a guy who is over a point a game in the regular season. He's had a good playoff so far. He's at 4 points. The Blizzard have been able to put some goals on the board so far in the playoffs. And so I think he could be a big factor for the Blizzard if they want to steal this series.
Absolutely. Darnell Duff, your X Factors, Flyers, Blizzard.
Yeah, this is a Blizzard team that comes at you hard. They're tenacious in the offensive zone. So for Winkler, I'm going to go to one of their rear guards in Isaiah Peters. Such a fantastic defenseman, has a nice offensive upside as well with 5 points. He's going to have to win battles in the corners against guys like Miguel Bouvier, Marlon Edwards, Quincy Cyprien, and that's not an easy task because those guys are three guys that are hard at you, and it is tough to get them off the biscuit. When it comes to the Northern Manitoba Blizzard, I look to none other, and it's a pretty cool 18-year-old story. You talk about Gavin Nemeth, 3-game winners, Mitchell Caitler for what he's doing for Portage. I'm taking Tate Timmerman of the Northern Manitoba Blizzard. His rookie playoff season was okay during the first couple of games. Then he gave up 4 goals in Game 3 against Nipois. How did he rebound in the final 2 games? Made 44 saves in Game number 4, and then 26 saves in Game number 5 as the Blizz beat Nipois in 5 games. Only 18 years of age. He's clearly shown that he is up to playing playoff hockey in Junior A. Can he do it against the Winkler Flyers? We're going to find out. But if the Blizzard want to have a chance, Timmerman's going to have to stand tall.
It's pretty easy to envision a series where Winkler gets 30 to 35 shots plus every night. And then if the special teams weigh in as well, and I think Winkler's power play is kind of bubbling under the surface to get going, that could be really interesting. When you go last in X Factors, you're just kind of hoping that your picks don't get taken before you. And thankfully, both my picks are still on the board. So for the Northern Manitoba Blizzard, Chichu Lathland. I mean, hurt throughout the year, he comes in and he completely changes the dynamic of that hockey team. He is an elite player. And Darnell, you've seen him in person. I mean, you know what that guy can do. Right-handed, he's got 3 goals in 3 games. He's just a total difference maker, and it makes you pay different attention to the Blizzard. And then on the other side, a sneaky pick, and Kevin, you would probably agree with this, Liam Carlone. What a really good series he had against Niverville. And if you're going to saw off the top 6 or even the top 3, you're going to need some secondary scoring. So a guy like Carlone, just kind of going about his business, picking his spots, hard on the forecheck, right place, right time kind of guy, that's going to be a big impact, I think, for the Flyers. So a guy like him is going to be something special, I think, in this series. So gentlemen, it's time. Predictions: the Winkler Flyers versus the Northern Manitoba Blizzard. Kevin Pauls, your thoughts?
And by that, I mean the Northern Manitoba Blizzard coming in as the underdogs, against arguably the best team throughout the course of the regular season, the Winkler Flyers. But the Flyers are starting to figure things out. If they can figure out the mental side, obviously, goaltending has been a hotly discussed topic, but they're starting to get that depth scoring, and some of their best players haven't even shown up yet. So I think the Winkler Flyers are starting to roll here. I think the Blizzard are going to put up a heck of a fight. Tate Timmerman's going to play some outstanding, net minding for the Blizzard, but I see the Winkler Flyers as really starting to gain momentum, and I see them winning this game in 5 games, for this series in 5 games.
Cody Bueller, your predictions?
Well, I feel like as we've been talking about this here for the last few minutes, it's been a debate going on in my mind as to who I think is going to win. Oh, there's a good point on this side. There's another good point on that side. And so I've been flip-flopping this entire discussion on who I think is going to win this series. When I was looking up the regular season series, the Flyers won 3 games to 1. The Blizzard were shut out both times when they were in Winkler. And then there were some pretty high-scoring affairs in Northern Manitoba, but that was a lot earlier in the season. But as I think about this series, the different factors, the different players, and everything kind of brought in and who's hot coming into this series, I like the Blizzard and how they've looked so far. And so maybe a bit of a hot take, but I think the Blizzard have a chance to upset. So I'm going to take Northern Manitoba in 7.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think the way that we have all discussed, that we could easily envision either team coming out of this series. Darnell Duff, your predictions, Flyers, Blizzard.
You know what, Cody? I know we're friends off here for the next couple of weeks, but I really do like your thoughts there. I think you alluded to that high scoring game. It was 7-6 Norman's lone win against Winkler this year, and it came at the Roy H. Johnston a night after they lost 5-2. I think if Northern Manitoba can go and set the tempo in game number one, find a way to win at the Icon Arena, and then come back home, earn a split on the road, come back home and defend home ice and perhaps get 2 of those games, I think the Northern Manitoba Blizzard win this series in 6 games.
I'm with Cody. Like, there's just so much information, and when you don't see teams in person, it's hard to really understand the flow of where they're at, and kind of which guys are peaking at the right time, which guys are coming close but missing, because the numbers don't tell you everything, right? I mean, posts don't count as shots, and it's hard to tell which power play is kind of lurking to be dangerous. But I think I want to go with the Blizzard, but I think I gotta go logistically with the Winkler Flyers in 6. I think that it's just like the depth, the size, I think it's going to be a little too much. And again, I think the Blizzard are going to be right there. It's going to be a wonderful series, and the Blizzard deserve to be there. You want to see them get to the finals after a good run last year. Like you said, Eric Labrosse, really good coach, but Colton Bates, Matt Mello on the bench of the Flyers. It should be really interesting, the chess match between these two clubs. But I think Winkler's just got a little bit more depth up front. They're a little bit heavier on the back end, so we'll go Winkler in 6. Gentlemen, always great catching up, and I guess we'll do a kind of a recap maybe after games 3 or 4, perhaps, depending on how these series are going, and we'll see if our opinions have changed at all, because, well, we're allowed to do that. We're grown-ups. Gentlemen, thanks for doing this.